By a show of hands, how many of you make less than you think that you are worth? Why is that? It's time for you to put your foot down and say, enough. Luckily, you're here at the right time and the right place. The most wonderful real estate podcast ever is the path that you seek. I'm Dwanderful Twyford, and I have closed over 2,000 deals. I've been investing for over 30 years. I've seen all the markets, and I've done over $500 million worth of deals. I mean, think about that. $500 million worth of real estate. And I have a heart for you. I want you to walk my path with me. Your life is about to change. And do you know why? Because it's time to thrive in 25. Say it with me. It's time to thrive in 25. It's time to thrive to 25. Enjoy the show.
Of course.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. I'm your host, Dwanderful Twyford. I am America's most sought after real estate investor. And I'm so excited to have you here for another episode. I have a super great guest for you today. You're going to love her. I talked to her the other day. She's super amazing. So if you want to find me, it's Dwanderful. So I took my name, Dwan and Wonderful, and I made a new word, which is Dwanderful. Dwanderful. Dwanderful.com, Instagram, Facebook, all the places. So I would like to welcome my awesome guest today, Miss Beckie. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Dwan?
I'm good. It's good to see you. All right. Did you hear?
Glad to talk to you again.
Oh, there we are. Okay. I think we're back. Sorry, folks. I had to do a whole thing here to get Miss Beckie back on to the call today. So I'm super glad that you're on today. And so I just like to kind of throw my guests like straight in, and I just ask you to give us your name, all the ways to find you on social media. So it's coming from you. It's at the top of the show notes, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect. My name is Beckie Lambert. That's spelled Beckie. No, I did not pick the spelling of my name. That is my given name. I probably wouldn't have picked that if I'd had a choice because almost everyone spells it wrong. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Beckie, Beckie, Kimber, that's like the rifle, and then Lambert, Lambert. My husband and I run Real Estate to Freedom, which is both a podcast and an education series of both residential and commercial real estate investing.
Perfect.
And I've been an investor for almost 22 years now, Dwan.
I know. And you're just like still a baby. You've been doing it.
Thanks.
Well, you started.
I'm honored to hear that because my kids don't think I am.
Kids never do. They're always like, you're so old. And it's like, hey, you're 42. You're a young little spry woman. So first of all, welcome.
I remember when I was a kid, I thought 20 was old.
Oh, I know. I can actually remember, like my family's from Tennessee. And, my grandparents were those grandparents that like, when they were like 40, they looked like they were 100. They had little white curls in their hair and, like the old grandma looking things. And I can remember being like 20, 15, 16 and being like, gosh, how are they still alive? They're like 50 years old. Like, how are they living? And then you get to be 66, you're like, 80 doesn't really look that bad anymore. It's so funny. So the thing I love is that you do commercial. And so y'all, I was on her podcast recently, and we talked about that there are not a lot of women still to this day, I don't think, in real estate investing. And there are very few women that really run like a whole commercial side. So I was super excited when I found out that's what you did, because it's like, honestly, I've had my podcast, I'm in my 7th season, and I think you are the only female commercial person I've interviewed.
Oh, I'm so honored.
No,
you're right. There's
not
a lot of.
They're all men. And I'm like, I love all the boys. I love the boys club. I love men, all that. But it's like, and I interview women a lot, but nobody in commercial. So you definitely are the shining star in the commercial side of things.
Thank you.
You're the shining star. Okay. So tell me about so you said you're working on, you just said it, like a system to help people figure out.
We are educating people on what to look for in commercial, because there's a lot of people who have invested in residential residential real estate, whether that's fix and flips or long-term holds, either as long-term rental properties or short-term rentals like Airbnb, VRBO, things like that. And there's a lot of people I know who are in the residential world and they like it, but they're ready to scale to commercial. And there's just not a lot of resources out there to teach you how to scale it to commercial successfully. The thing with residential is, as you know, you jump in and you try to get educated, and a lot of it you learn as you go. And if you make a mistake, you might lose $5,000 or $10,000 here or there, and it sucks, but you learn. In the commercial space, that same mistake will lose you 5 or 10 million.
Oh, yeah.
So the numbers are so much bigger and it's so much more terrifying for most people. But the reality is, I love commercial real estate because I love numbers. Numbers don't lie. People sometimes do, but the financial statements will tell you the actual story of what's going on a property. And I love it. I have been in commercial real estate for about 16 years now, actually, now that I do the math backward. I've been in real estate for almost 22 years, but 16 of it's been in commercial. And to me, it's so empowering. You can look at the numbers, you can see what it should sell for, you can see how the property is performing, and you can see whether or not you've got a value add proposition where you can raise the rents, lower the expenses, and make the property profitable. You fix and flip a house in, 2, 3, 6 months. You typically fix and flip a commercial property over 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
But instead of making 20,000, you make like 7 million.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I have told you before, and anyone that watches me knows that my husband and I are basically rehabbing a town in Iowa. So when we first started buying all these buildings, we said, okay, we're making a 5-year plan. This is our 5-year plan. And then, unfortunately, my husband ended up with a super rare blood cancer, and he had to have a full bone marrow transplant. And that was like 2.5 years of like living in like a bubble. We had to live in special housing. So I told Bill, I said, well, our 5-year plan just turned into a 10-year plan because we had to take so much time and just let our buildings just sit there. Now, luckily, we were able to do that, which I feel like that right there would put a lot of people out of business. But people are afraid. So when you're talking commercial, you're like strip malls, commercial building. We're not apartments here. We're commercial.
Well, apartments are commercial, but yes, I do it all. Anything 5 units and above is considered commercial real estate. 4 units and below is considered residential. And the reason why that cut off in such a weird spot is because if you buy a fourplex, you can buy it under a conventional mortgage, either owner occupied if you're going to live in one of the 4 units, or as an investment property, but using a residential mortgage. As soon as you hit 5 units and above, it has to go to a commercial loan. But I specialize in multifamily apartments, office, retail, warehouse, storage units, trailer parks, RV pads, aircraft hangars.
Oh, aircraft hangars.
Yeah, I've done a variety of them.
So let's talk about all the things except for apartments, because everybody and their brother, men, are always, I do commercial. I have, $500 million worth of 100, 200 unit apartments. And I feel like everyone's like, oh, that's commercial. I'm doing that. But I don't feel like a lot of people get into, like, we have buildings that are, the first floor is rented space. The second floor are apartments. The third floor are offices. The top is restaurants. So there are lots and lots of different things. So I personally, now I have never done a lot of commercial. I've only owned 2 commercial units back. Like 20 years ago, I had 2 commercial multi-use places that could be, in the old areas where they take houses, they zone them like commercial, so you can put in like an office or a dentist, something like that. So when we started in Iowa, this was my first time diving into like straight up commercial, and I didn't really know anything about it. I was like, well, we're buying it cheap. It's going to take $500,000 to get this building amazing and but we're keeping everything for like forever, to our kids, to our grandkids, like all the way forever. So when someone is like, okay, I want to buy commercial, let's say, I don't know, a building or a strip mall. You mentioned a lot of cool things there. I like the airport hangars, to be honest. It's like, I never even thought about that.
It's a great way to go, but it is complicated. You have to jump through a lot of government hoops to get FAA approval because it's basically on government land. But yeah, a lot of those aircraft hangars, if you're going to do something of that nature, it'll cost you 200, 300,000 to build it, but a lot of them rent for anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 a month
I bet. Now,
because people need to park their aircrafts.
yeah, when I lived in Florida, I mean, we still have a house there. When I lived there full time, there are a lot of small little airports where people fly all their jets and stuff in. And I was so used to seeing those everywhere. Like they're just literally everywhere. And they're in Boca Raton, they're in Delray, they're just everywhere. And I got up here to Colorado and it's like, I don't think I've ever even noticed one. But we live in the mountains too, so different
Right.
story than what's happening in Denver. But so let's talk about commercial buildings, as I feel like
Okay.
people don't know about commercial buildings. So if I'm new and I've already followed you and you've given me the advice, you've talked to me about cap rates, talked to me about this and that, like what would be a good thing? And I know this is a very broad question, but what would be a good place for someone that has the guts to take a step up to commercial and not buy apartments, but something like a strip mall or a building? Like what would somebody look for? I know, again, broad question, but
It's broad, but I can
you
answer it.
have the
Okay.
experience. So say I'm new, I have money, I have credit, I've got rentals. I'm like, it's all boring. I want something exciting. And I have a
You
high
want
risk
something
factor.
sexy. Okay. Well,
Something
it depends
sexy.
on the market, really. It depends on where you're at. Because in certain markets, office space is really, really valuable. It's really great. And in other markets, office space is so oversaturated that you'll build an office building and it will sit vacant for 3 to 5 years before you get
Forever.
tenants in there. So I would say figure out what type of commercial asset you want to jump into and then find a market that fits that. Or you could find a market and figure out what commercial fits there if you're not super picky, but making sure the market's not oversaturated for that. Because I feel the same way. I love storage units, but everybody wants to invest in storage units.
Everybody.
And so it's really hard to find one that actually is a good deal. Most of the ones I see are there's not really value add proposition too much. They're okay prices. You're mostly buying them and for the long-term purpose of putting it in your portfolio and recognizing that storage units are often counter-cyclical. So, for example, if you have office space and retail space, they typically struggle during a recession because
Yes.
there's fewer people out buying stuff, right? And
Yes.
people, instead of renting office space, they're like, oh, I'll work from my bedroom at my house or whatever it needs to be. But storage units tend to be counter-cyclical in the fact that when a recession hits, people need to downsize their homes.
Yes, they do.
And when they downsize their homes, they've got too much stuff to fit. They move it into a storage unit. Storage units will often do better during a recession than the other real estate asset classes. And so a lot of people buy them just for the purpose of diversifying their portfolio, which I'm a supporter of.
Yeah.
But you have to know going into storage units, you're not often buying them at like this killer deal because you're competing with everybody else for them. And if you are buying them for a killer deal, it might be because that market is an area where people are moving away from. So evaluate the market, look at the population and the demographics of that particular area. Is it a population that is growing or is it a population that's shrinking?
Yeah.
That'll tell you whether or not you want to do office, retail, or even warehouse stuff in that area. The population can be shrinking and still do warehouse as long as the warehouse has great access to infrastructure, great access to whatever you are looking to attract. So, for example, if you're going to do warehouse can be super profitable, but there's good and bad with all forms of commercial real estate, truthfully.
Now,
So like warehouse, for example, oftentimes you'll have one tenant. If that one tenant files bankruptcy and moves out, you could be vacant for a very long time. But other times you'll have a warehouse, you negotiate with a really good tenant, you get them in there and they'll stay 30, 50 years.
oh,
They'll
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
pay rent like clockwork. It's amazing.
They do. It's funny. I have had storage units in the past. Like when I was
Mhm.
younger, I moved a lot and I'd have a house I don't know, I moved. So I'd put stuff in storage and then I would realize like 2 years later, I never even took anything out of storage.
Mhm.
I
You
think
clearly didn't need it.
because you don't need it. But I know that people put them in there, go, I'm going to come back. I need this. I need this. And then years later, you're like, you know what? I've never even gone there. I don't need anything that's in it. Let it go. And that show Storage Wars made storage units like so popular, but they're
Yeah.
honestly full of junk.
Most of them are, yes.
Yeah, we bought one of the properties that we bought in Iowa. It was 6 parcels. And so it had 20 unit storage on it. It had a big vacant parking lot. And then there was, to me, what I feel like is one building, it was three. So it was like, mechanic place with like the big doors to work on like motorhomes or something, a motorcycle shop and something else. And I was like, well, how is this three buildings? It's the one giant building with like two walls there, but each one was its own building, its own parcel, and the storage
Mhm.
and then the parking. And I was like, well, okay, so you get six parcels, which in Iowa count because we get to vote for the things that happen downtown. So it gave me six extra votes. But then the buildings had been sitting empty forever. So we decided we're going to take the storage units and we're going to fix them up and put on better doors and open them all up. And they have stuff that's been in there for 10 years and no one's ever even come back or made a payment or anything. I was just like, so then you think, oh, there's a lot of good stuff in there. No, they're full of junk. so, so
For the most part, Storage Wars, the TV series, I've seen a little bit of it, but I don't do much TV, I'll be honest. But for the most part, that's the glorified version that makes it seem
oh,
really exciting and sexy.
they're full
To
of
a
junk.
large extent, when you are opening storage units, I mean, you've probably seen it. Anyone who's done a lot of storage units, most of the time you're not finding valuable stuff in there. If there was valuable stuff in there, they would have already pulled it out and used it to pay the rent.
And use it to pay. That's right.
Not always, but usually. A lot of
Yeah.
times you open and you're like, wow, every newspaper article for the last 70 years. That's great. Where's the recycle bin?
I agree with you so much on that. Now I like commercial. I like so we don't have like a strip mall. We have one of our buildings. It's actually the whole entire block. So all downstairs is retail. And then like I said, apartments and then little businesses upstairs. So like in a building like that, like I felt like that was a good investment for us. You know, brings in a lot of money. It's obviously super, super long term. So if someone wanted commercial, would they want to find like maybe a vacant strip mall or would they want to build something? Like what would a person initially want that would be the easiest for just think newbie.
To get in?
Yeah.
Well, I think your easiest way to get in is to partner with other people who are doing it and learn the ropes first
Yes.
so that you can see how this works without being the only one putting all the money in. You can join into a syndication and put in, say, 100,000 or 500,000, and you're a part owner, but you're not the only one managing the whole thing. You learn how this works as you go through the process because you need to learn how to read and understand financial statements. You need to know how to manage the projects. You got to build relationships with realtors and brokers who really have a lot of existing great relationships with tenants who are going to want to move in that space. The bigger the tenants, the better, as far as like if it's a mom and pop clothing boutique versus like being able to attract like a national tenant. Your
Yes.
national
Like
tenant
a
has a much
chain, like
better
a
chance
food
of paying
chain.
rent every month,
Yeah. Or
you
some
know?
like a food chain or
Yeah, or a food chain.
or something that's
Just something.
bigger.
Because your mom and pop retail clothing store has a higher chance of going bankrupt because of companies like Amazon. I'm not opposed to Amazon, but you can see why the traditional retail space struggles if you try to just maintain your traditional retail space. So if you want to make money in the commercial real estate, what you really need to do is find what works in your market, where there is a demand, and fill that demand. To a large extent, I don't care whether you buy a vacant retail strip center or if you buy an old office building that's vacant or if you buy one that's full of tenants. If the numbers make sense, that's where you go. But you've got to understand the market, the demographics of your market, what's going on, the population is it in grow, and is the population growing because of births or in migration? And the reason I bring that up is not that I'm opposed to migration or anything, but because sometimes you'll have a town where all of a sudden there's a lot of people moving to it, and investors will think, wow, I'm going to build something here. But they haven't dove in deep enough to figure out that people are moving there because of, for example, there's one employer and it's really big here and people are moving here for this one employer. Well, if that one employer changes shop, all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of vacant space and you have a population that's declined drastically.
Yep.
So, for example, oil fields is a really common example of that. The oil industry is booming. Everybody moves to these certain cities to go work in these oil fields. And 1 year later, 6 months later, 2 years later, oil's not as profitable. They shut down
Yep.
those oil rigs and the town becomes a ghost town. And you now have a
Yes.
beautiful strip mall in a vacant place.
And it goes down. I
Mhm.
remember, I don't know, it was some type of like, this was years ago. I don't even know. It could have been 7, 8, 9 years ago. It was like some type of a UPS type of something. And 90% of the people in that town worked for that company, like 700
Mhm.
people. And they closed. gosh, I can't remember what it was, but I remember just thinking like, wow, all those people, like the whole town depends on this place, and they closed or moved or went out of state or
Right.
whatever they did. And all of a sudden, everybody didn't have a job. And then all the other jobs were things like restaurants and, you're like supporting things, but the big place
They're supporting
closed.
that one job though.
They're supporting that job. And gosh, what was it? It was like, I feel like it was like it wasn't UPS, it was a parcel company. And I just remember thinking, like, gosh, we should go there and like check things out. But then I thought, okay, but that is supporting everyone. So then now who's going to go to the restaurants? Who's going to go to the boutiques? Who's going to go to the coffee shop? And like half
Mhm.
the things in that town went out of business just in a year or two.
Right. And that's why it matters to evaluate the location, the diversity of employment sources, look at the infrastructure, look at what are the demands that are going to bring people to here? And
Hmm.
is it going to be long term? And do you have a diversity in employment sources? Do you have people of a variety of different ages? Because, for example, if you have a town where almost everybody there is 70 or older, and you don't have a lot of younger people moving in, you got to know at some point
They're all going to
this
die.
population is not going to be around
And their
forever.
kids are going to inherit it. And it's going to be like in the Carolinas and the kids live in New York. And they're like, oh, we don't want that. We just want to get rid of
Right.
everything. I trust that you are loving the podcast. Hey, do you really want to become a super kick-ass superstar real estate investor? Really? 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 All right, I want you to spend the next minute and just take my real estate investing quiz. Super fast, super quick. It'll let you know where you stand on your journey. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to Dwanderful.com. And back to the show.
Right. And if it's a place where the next generation wants to be moving, great, then that's probably a good place to invest. Like I mentioned, I'm not opposed to different people of different ages. It's not that. But as an investor, you and I both know you want to be where the market is continually cycling itself naturally and replacing itself.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many things to look at, but they're all really good. Location, market, population, how are things like that going? And then look at saturation of whatever asset class you are looking at. If you're going into a market and there's already a lot of office space that's vacant, just because there's a lot of office space doesn't mean it's a bad investment. If there's a lot of vacant office space,
Yeah.
you can find this out pretty easily. You talk to local brokers who are your top brokers. Don't talk to the brokers who don't know much,
Yes.
that claim they do, but don't actually. In most every market, you're going to have 3 to 4 brokers who really kind of run the show in that specific asset class.
Yes.
That's who you are looking for. Talk to those brokers and find out what's the average vacancy rate, or they call it an absorption rate. What it means is how long does this asset class typically sit vacant? And just know in the commercial space, this is not like your apartments.
No.
In an apartment building, if they're like, oh, 3 to 4 months, you're like, wow, that's such a long vacancy. And for an apartment, that 3 to 4 month absorption rate is kind of high. Most of them are 1 to 2 months. In a commercial space, it's not at all uncommon, depending on the asset class. Like, for example, office space, 2 to 3 years is pretty common. So you got to make sure you've got the cash flow to cover that property for 2 to 3 years of vacancy.
Yeah.
Retail, sometimes 2 to 3 is pretty common. Warehouse is sometimes 5 to 7.
Wow.
Depending on this. And the reason why, because warehouse is very specialized. If you build a warehouse, I mean, let me give you a great example because it's so specialized. It really makes sense. For example, if Facebook is building a data center, this is warehouse space commercial real estate. Facebook's going to come in, they usually sign 10 to 20-year leases, but you have to put in a whole ton of power because they have a lot of computers they got to run. You also have to have a lot of water because the water cools down the equipment. When Facebook leaves that building 10, 20 years later, you have a building with a whole lot of water and a whole lot of power that may or may not be needed by any other company.
I know.
Does that make sense?
One of the biggest things I learned, because I've never bought, so in Clinton, Iowa, we're buying like they're all really old buildings. So
Right.
most of them were like a big long side on the town, and there's 3 or 4 little buildings. They have heat and air. But we bought a couple big buildings, and I learned about boilers.
Oh, I bet that was fun.
Oh, well, it was because one of the boilers, we didn't do something right with it. The guy didn't do it and it like blew up. That thing cost $60,000 to replace. Like it was like 30 to fix, but it was already like 25 years old. 60,000 bucks. I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah,
But
they're expensive.
but so then we're like, okay, you know what? Well, this is a time to put in heat and air for like each unit so they all pay their own. But then that was like 150,000. And we're like, oh, what the hell? So we had to buy a new boiler. And then now I was like, okay, I didn't even know what a boiler was. And it's in two of our buildings. So now we're like, okay, if we're getting, so we just recently bought an old Masonic temple and
Hmm.
we're gonna try and like rent it out for like the parties, the bar mitzvahs,
Yeah.
the I can't think what the word is, for the girls, the Hispanic girls from the 50
Quinceañeras.
think that what is it?
Quinceañera. It means 15.
Yeah, I have such a hard time with that word because there's such a high population for that. Well, that one, it's like half of it's in a boiler and half of it has separate heat and air. And we were like, okay, we need to seriously get all this checked out because of the other one. When it like blew a gasket, we're like, oh, we'll just fix it. It's like, no, you can't fix it. It's too old. Like, oh my God. So that was like a $60,000 lesson for us because neither of
Hmm.
us have ever owned buildings that old. And we're like, oh, you just a guy comes and turns it on October 1st and they turn it off April and it just sits and it was so expensive. And it went out in like the dead of the winter
Always.
in Iowa where it's like 10 below zero and the guys couldn't put a new one in for like 3 weeks. So we have to buy everyone, but we're buying them all space heaters. We're sending them all pizza every day. We're doing everything to keep everybody warm because I can't get it fixed overnight.
Right.
And people and we were like, listen, you guys don't have to pay rent for these few months. And I mean, we bought like 50 space heaters. We bought so much stuff for people just so they wouldn't like, well, first of all, we would get the building like tagged. And I get people
Yeah.
living in there with families and kids, and there's no heat. And they don't just come the next day and like fix your boiler. It's a giant thing. And we were like, okay, so now, obviously, we're more aware. But if I had known more about commercial, I would have known to look for that. And we didn't know. We're just like, oh, yeah, we're going to buy all these buildings. These are all gray. And then, no, it's a whole thing. There was just like, so my learning curve was so big. And the funny thing is, Bill and I both have been investing for like 35 years. And I said, who do we know that does like commercial that we can talk to before we start buying all these buildings? And there was really like nobody. We looked
There's
around.
not a
I
lot.
called a couple RIA groups. Do you have anyone that like specializes in commercial? I'm like, we'll just, how hard could it be? We'll figure it out. Let me tell you something. We
It
had
can be
the
quite
last
hard.
5 years, I've had so many learning curves. It's like, holy cow, people just can't go buy stuff like that.
Mm-mm. Well, Dwan, now you do know somebody.
Well, I do. Well, now, if I had known you 5 years ago, I would be like, Becky, listen, help me out. I'm buying all these buildings. Tell me what I'm doing. And then a couple other ones had like air, but they didn't have heat, or they had heat, but not air. It's just like, and then the water. And then, so we have to pay every building that we have that's big, we have to pay the water for the whole building. So we pay
Hmm.
everybody's water. And then as each person moves out, we take each apartment or office space one by one and give them their own central heat and air. And, so everyone is responsible to help us cut back and eventually get rid of having that boiler. But oh my gosh, the first we had it like 2 years when that thing went out. And I was like, how much do those things cost? And how long is it going to take? And it was freezing. And I was like, well, we can't put everybody in a hotel. And, so it cost us a fortune to fix it and to keep everybody warm. And I kept sending people like pizzas and food and just like trying to keep everybody happy so nobody would report us because it was
Right.
freezing. So,
The timing of those going out is terrible. And yeah, a lot of your older office, retail, warehouse space all are on boilers.
yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
what's a boiler? And Bill's like, yeah, what? And I was like, how do we, neither one of us know this and being investing for decades? Like, neither of us knew this. And I thought I would pay someone to go to their boot camp and hire them to mentor me, to teach me
Hmm.
everything that we just learned because it costs us a lot of money. And now,
Right. And even when you try to teach people stuff, there's still stuff you're going to learn as you go along. But like the idea of how to evaluate a commercial property. What is a debt service coverage ratio? What is an IRR?
Well, let's talk
What is
about
a
that.
cap rate?
Tell
These
me,
are all important to know.
because people don't know about cap rates and the servicing. So give it, and I know I know these questions are super general because I don't have like a specific
That's
building
fine.
we can talk about, but like the cap rates and the servicing, like tell me, to the new people, what does that mean?
So a debt
I
service
know what it
coverage,
means now because
right, you do now.
I
A
did
debt
not
service
know what it
coverage
meant 5 years
ratio.
ago.
It's just a glorified way of saying, can this property cover the expenses and the mortgage on the property? And if so, by how much? A debt service coverage ratio is important for a variety of reasons. It tells you whether or not this project is going to cash flow, first
Okay,
of all.
and so what would be like a decent debt service ratio? Is there a ratio?
Yep. You want at least a 1.25. That's your minimum.
1.25%?
Nope, just 1.25 times. I'll tell you how to compute it, and then I'll show you how that pans out.
Okay.
Above a
You're going to be
1.3
teaching me
is
right now
really,
too.
really good. And I might even have a slide I can kind of show you just briefly because I did a training on it recently. But essentially, you're taking your financial statements
Okay.
from the property. A good financial statement, guys, is worth its money. It's so worth the money. People who are trying to sell you a property who have garbage financials, the one and only thing you know for sure is you have no idea how this property is doing, and neither do they.
That's
They may
right.
not even be lying to you. They just don't know. Good quality financial reporting is huge in this industry. If they have terrible financial reporting, you have to back into it and then take a big discount on the property with the knowledge that you don't know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
But basically, it's the income on the property. I'm going to use an apartment building as an example because it's simplified, but the same applies to
Okay.
office, retail, warehouse. Okay. You take all the rents from all the tenants. You subtract from it the expenses like your accounting, your office manager, your snow removal, your landscaping, all those kind of expenses, not including the debt on the property. That one's separate. Okay.
Okay.
You have rents minus expenses. What's left over is called the net operating income, or your NOI. That NOI is really crucial in commercial real estate for a variety of reasons. You take the NOI and you divide it, or net operating income, and you divide it by the debt payments that you have to pay for the property during that same time period. So in a very, very simplified manner, basically you're taking your NOI divided by the debt. You want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. So typically you're going to want to do like a year's worth, 12 months worth of rent minus 12 months worth of expenses, and divide it by the payments on the property. This ratio, it's not a percentage, it's a ratio. You want it to be at least a 1.25. What that means is you have 25% more than the debt payment you need to make. So you have a little bit of you have a 25% cushion here for boilers that go out, or electrical that needs to be replaced, or repairs to the property, or cash flow to you personally, which ideally that's where we want it to go, but
Yes,
it
we
doesn't
do.
always go there. Repairs to the roof, all those other kind of things that are normal on a property, any property, residential or commercial. The debt service coverage ratio is not often used in the residential world, and I keep pounding the door telling people you need to be looking at this.
Yes.
Because it matters. It tells you whether or not your property is cash flowing. If your property is not cash flowing and it's not likely to cash flow soon, you should sell that sucker and put it into something that does, because you are draining your bank account for no particular
For
reason.
no reason. I tell people all the time, you got to figure out the cap rate. They go, "What's the cap rate?"
Right.
I'm like, "Well, it's like the percentage." And it's funny. I used to teach a session in our trainings on how to do cap rates, and I haven't taught that session in so long. I would have to actually go back to my own programs to read that, because when you don't figure it out for a long time, it's like, I don't remember. It's in there.
No, it really matters. Let's walk through what a cap rate is, because it really matters.
It does
A
matter.
cap rate is short for capitalization rate. What that means is it's a really fancy way of saying what rate are investors willing to pay on this property. It's not an interest rate, but essentially it's the premium that they're willing to pay. And it doesn't mirror exactly, meaning it doesn't go up at the same ratio that the interest rates go up. But there is a very distinct link between the two.
Yeah.
And the reason why, as you know, is if interest rates are low, if I go to buy a property for $5 million, if interest rates are low, my monthly payment on this property is going to be significantly lower than if interest rates are high.
Yeah.
So if my payment is, $105,000, which it wouldn't be on 5 million, it'd be more like, that's more like a 10 million, but say $105,000
Yeah,
is the monthly payment, depending on where the interest rate is. If interest rates go up by 2%, your monthly payment will likely go up from 105,000 to closer to like 138,000. That could make or break a property
yes,
really, really quickly. And it doesn't just break the property. Oftentimes it's, oh crap, now I got to come up with $10,000 extra every single month to feed this property for the foreseeable future, because as interest rates go up, typically they stay up for a while.
they do.
The feds don't just yo-yo those very often. It creates too much, I guess the best word for it would be post-traumatic stress disorder amongst investors.
Ah,
There's too much PTSD in
as
the
I told
market.
Bill, I said after his cancer, because it was just such a crazy thing, and then having all those buildings sitting there for like 2 years, and then we got back in. I'm like, gosh, I feel like I seriously have PTSD from all of this. Too much stuff
Mhm.
happened in a short amount of time. Luckily,
Yes.
we had investors that had worked with. They were, hey, listen, while you guys are doing this, don't worry about payments. Don't worry about anything. We got you. You just get yourself healthy. But that's because we had a lot of personal investors, not like
Mhm.
so many banks where they're like, we don't care. You miss a few payments, we're taking the property back. We don't care. So
Right.
so we were very blessed by a lot of like really amazing people, but that's because we bought the buildings from the people and had them own or finance buildings to us. And I don't
Oh,
know
that's
that
great.
everybody gets that lucky, but we went into a town with a lot of boarded up windows and a lot of like 75-year-old widows. Oh, my husband did that. He's been dead a decade. I'm just letting it's just been sitting and sitting and sitting. So we were very lucky to get 90% of our stuff owner finance, which I don't think I'm
That's not
sure that
super
that's not
common in the
normal.
commercial
I'm
space.
sure that that's not normal.
Show you.
These
That's
were people
awesome.
that were like, I just need to get rid of the property. And then when Bill got sick, they were like, hey, don't worry about it. We're fine. But now they're like, okay, you're back. He's working. Everything's fine. Let's go. Money, money, money. Make the payments, do the stuff, catch up on all the things. So, and then,
Right.
there's like the taxes, and we had two of our buildings have elevators. Well, so I learned so many good
Oh,
lessons
those
about
are expensive.
elevators. You got to have them inspected, and they have to do this and this and this. And one of them we didn't know about, and it got shut down. And I was like, okay, well, what is that? So then, because it's in Clinton, Iowa, we got to get a guy from Chicago. He's got to come. He's got to do this and this and this. And he just tag, and if it's tagged, people can't use the elevators to get up to the second or third floor. And you got old people, and they're just like, I can't make the stairs. So I was like, oh, well, okay. So now I know. Check the roofs, check the boilers, check the elevators.
Yeah, your elevators, depending on the size of the elevator, I mean, they have residential elevators, but if you're in a commercial building, you're almost never going to have a residential elevator. They only hold like 3 people.
Yeah,
The
no,
commercial elevators run anywhere from 100,000 to 2 million,
they're
and probably
so.
even higher if you're looking at like a 50-story big office building in New York City. But most of the ones I see, 100,000 is like your bare minimum
Yeah, I have a
for an
four-story
elevator.
building, and the elevator, like the guy tagged and I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, you didn't, the whoever had it before didn't get this inspection, that inspection, didn't update this and this and this and this. And we're like, okay, how much is that going to cost? And it's like, holy cow. So, I mean, I guess Bill and I have a really high risk factor because we've been investing for 35. Like, oh, let's just do it. It'd be fun. And I said to him, I said, I feel like a new investor when
You
doing
pretty
all
much
this
are.
commercial because I am, because I've never had a building with an elevator, and we have two. And if one little thing goes out, then you don't have access, and then you lose your handicap access, and then it's like this whole giant thing. And I'm like,
It
oh
is.
my gosh, what is the deal with the elevators? So many lessons. I could write a book about all the things we did wrong.
What not to do in commercial real
Ah!
estate
Oh, we
by
have three
Blonde
buildings with
Meg
elevators.
Twyford.
Three. Oh, I'm not even joking. So now we're like, redoing the insides and making them all fancy and bougie so people feel like they're, pride coming up onto their apartment floor and things like that. But my goodness, it's like, I tell people, and I tell people this all the time because we specialize more in like newer investors. And I'm like, if you ever want to buy something commercial or something big, you need someone besides us to teach you that because we learned everything by trial and error. And I don't know enough to teach it to another person. And now that I have you, I'm going to be like, listen,
I
Becky's
got
the
you.
only girl you're going to go to. Forget all the other people. I don't care who they are. You're going to work with her because she'll take care of you. Because, we have like the same moral compass.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
told Bill, I said, I mean, we have programs on wholesaling and short sales and scripts and NLP and bankruptcy, and we have all these programs that are. I said, I don't know enough to even teach commercial to another person. I can just say, watch out for these 10 things.
Mhm.
But how to get in, I don't even know.
It is challenging. The reality is once you do it a few times, it's just like a fix and flip. You start to see the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
Once you've flipped a meth house, you get pretty good at identifying what a meth house looks like.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
It's
I know for sure.
it's kind of the same concept in commercial. You're like, ah, I've seen that before. I know what that looks like.
Yes. Now I feel like if I went to buy anything, I told Bill, I said, so I made him promise because he bought 2 buildings in the last 6 months. I'm like, listen, for the love of God, stop buying buildings. We don't need, yeah, I know, but they offered them. And I was like, listen, stop buying buildings. We have to get all the other ones fixed. So our 5-year plan is a 10-year plan. I'm like, dude, we're going to be like 75 when we get all these buildings done. Like, stop buying stuff. But like recently, a friend of ours had a building and she's sick. She's like, I'll just own and finance it to you guys. You can just have it. And I was like, oh my God. So like, you don't want to say no. And the building's beautiful and it's perfect. It's like, now I got to get another space rented and do whatever needs to be done to get people in there. And I'm like, stop buying buildings. I said, 28 buildings is all any person needs to own.
I don't know. I'd love to make it to 200 at this point. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
commercial is fun, but like we talked a little bit about what a debt service coverage ratio is. That's important to know. You need to know what a cap rate is. And cap rates are important. They really, really matter a lot because it changes the value of the property
Yes, it
drastically.
does.
I'm going to pull up a slide that I don't know if I can even show, but it's important to understand because of how much it changes everything.
It's
Um,
so important. It's so
yeah,
important.
the value based on the cap rate is absolutely huge. When you move from one cap rate, even a 1% change in the cap rate, depending on because the value of the property, here's why it matters. The value of the property is based on the net operating income. We just talked about why that one's so important. That's your rents minus your expenses, not including the debt. Okay. Rents minus expenses. That NOI divided by the cap rate, that tells you what the property should sell for.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Okay.
that simple. It's
What is
really
yourself?
that simple.
Now, are
And
you
there are
a
a few factors that change it, like the condition of the elevators, HVAC system, or boilers, the condition of the electrical, the condition of the roof. But for the most part, that tells you what it sells for. And the cool thing about this one is that's the same whether it's office, retail, warehouse, multifamily, storage units, RV parks, aircraft hangars. They all sell based on the NOI divided by the cap rate. So in the commercial space, I don't have to go in and pick out curtains and hope the new buyers are going to
yes,
love what I picked out,
exactly.
which is not my thing. I like numbers. They're not subjective. Like the
Yes.
interior design is so hard for me. I have no idea. But commercial, there's basically two ways to make money. You can raise the rents, you can lower the expenses. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, or you can hope cap rates go down, but that one, you're basically just praying for cap rates to go down. You really cannot control cap rates, but
No.
you can control the rents, you can control the expenses. So raise the rents, lower the expenses, sell the property. You just flipped a commercial property. And the cool thing in commercial, this is the same with all commercial, including apartment buildings. If you can raise the rent and lower the expenses without remodeling the property, you don't have to remodel the property.
So
Sometimes
great.
it's just a matter of the current management company sucks and
Yes.
they haven't been managing it well, or they're not taking care of the tenants. And so tenants are moving out. Like we literally just bought an apartment building in Texas where the tenants were moving out because the current owners hadn't replaced the AC units. You are in Texas. You have to have good AC
It's so
units.
hot there.
Like this is an apartment building. It's like, guys, this should not be rocket science. Good AC units are going to matter a lot in Texas.
Yes.
Put in new AC units. The tenants are like, oh, yeah, okay, we'll stay. We're happy.
Yeah.
Wow, that was not even rocket science. But see, if the AC units were in good condition, and sometimes it's that the property managers are just not receptive. The people are calling saying, hey, there's a problem with my hot water heater, and no one responds, no one responds, no one responds. Eventually, the tenants feel like, well, I guess we better go find somewhere else because these aren't
They
being taken
do.
care of. And it's something as easily as lighting the pilot light
Yeah.
on the hot water heater. It's like,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. It's funny because the one building that we bought, it's called the Tucker building. So the one building, it's like I said, it's a whole entire city block, the whole thing, downstairs and
Mhm.
all the apartments. And we have tenants that came with the building that are still there. And we're just like, hey, listen, we're going to fix this or do that or update people's air, just update things. And we have people that have lived there for years and years and years, but we see them because when we go to Iowa, like you see them at the grocery store, like they're there. And but my thing is like if anything happens at all, I have a property manager and she is a bulldog. She will get something fixed the same day if possible, or at least the next day. Because when you don't do that, people do move out.
Right. You're giving them a reason to move out.
You give them
Take
a
care of your
reason.
people and they'll
Yep.
take care of you.
Yep. So that's what I always do. I always try to get people to sign long leases as long as possible. And we make everything nice. And we're like, is there anything you want, to make this place perfect? So it's like your home. And we've had people that have been in some of our buildings that were there when we bought them. And then when someone does move out, then we go like remodel the whole apartment. So it's like, bougie, and we paint the ceilings black to make them we're making them like that loft vibe that everybody likes. Like, oh my gosh, this is like a loft. This is so great. And so we update them. But the ones that are there, it's like, no, we just make sure they're happy. If they need new carpet, whatever they need, like we just take care of everybody. Because if you don't take care of them in just a couple months, even like the commercial people, they'll move
Same
out.
thing. The cool thing with commercial is like on an apartment building, most people sign a 12-month lease. On a commercial building, like an office, retail, warehouse, they often sign 10, 20, 30. I have seen 50-year leases.
Nice.
Especially with your larger companies like your McDonald's or Chick-fil-A's. Those are really common in those industries. And the cool thing with that is you've got a set tenant for 50 years as long as you take care of them. Yep. Now, McDonald's, for example, they tend to do ground leases, and we probably don't have time to go into a ground lease, but a ground lease is really cool. What that means is I own the land. McDonald's builds the building. They pay all the cost to build it. And at the end of 50 years on the ground lease, I now own the building. I say, thank you so much for building me a building. That was amazing of you. Given it's a 50-year-old building, it needs some work, but I got it for free. So who cares?
Yes. You know what else I found out? There's so many things we learned. One of the buildings we bought was a 6-story building, and it's the tallest building in like the downtown area. And there were all these telephone towers on the top.
Oh, those are so profitable.
Oh, well, I didn't know anything about those either. So there was like 6 of them. So we called them and they're like, oh yeah, they have like these 50-year leases. And so then I have a company that says, hey, we'll buy 10 years of your lease for this amount of cash. So I was like, okay, explain that to me. So I'm telling you, we learned so many things. So a couple of them, one is like a Verizon tower, and it's on like a 50-year lease. They have a whole, on the top of the building, and then on the fifth floor, these towers have rooms that are just full of like just equipment. And they have all these special air conditioners to keep everything cool. And like no one can really go into the like on that floor. It's every space is just full of acute computers and equipment and all these AC and all this stuff because it's running their tower. And I was like, so this company's like, yeah, we'll buy 10 years out of your lease. And so I'm like, okay, so you buy 10 years. So I have a 40-year lease left. You buy 10 years. So for 10 years, I don't get any rent, but I get this cash now. And then I pick up with the rent. So I didn't know about those. So we were like, hey, let's do that. So we sold a couple of the lease, like 10-year increments, and then used the cash to remodel the building. And I was like, well, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Commercial is so creative. There's so many things you can do. I mean, yeah, cell phone towers are pretty popular on top of the building, but you have to be the first one to it because they don't need 2 on the same block.
Exactly.
And you have to have a certain type of roof for it to work. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it. On the commercial space, you got to know what you're doing in order to make it profitable. Your debt service coverage ratio is an important part. You got to know what it should be selling for based on the net operating income divided by the cap rate. You got to know when the leases expire, because if you've got an office building with 12 tenants and all of them expire within 12 months of each other, you could have a problem on your hands with no income coming in. So find a way to stagger those leases. See if you can give a discount to talk 1 or 2 of them or 3 of them into signing their lease early so that you don't have a vacancy. So you've got at least 3 of them moving over. Try to see what you can do to stagger those leases. You really don't want them all terminating at the same time, unless your goal is to tear the building down and build something new.
Yeah, exactly. Now, do you guys have syndication? Do you offer syndication options for people?
Oh, yeah. My husband and our capital raisers, we have syndications on commercial space. Most of the syndications we've done is in apartment buildings. And
Okay.
the main reason for that is that's the easiest for most people to understand. It mirrors what their experience is, either as a residential real estate investor or as a person who owns a home that they live in.
Hmm.
It feels familiar. And so most people are apt to jump into commercial by way of apartment buildings first.
Yeah.
It is not the only profitable niche out there, but it's the one that's the easiest to understand. Most people, just with no experience, aren't going to jump in and do an office space or a retail space because they hear horror stories of, oh, you don't want to own retail space because since Amazon came along, retail is all bad. Well, retail is not all bad. There's a
No, it's
lot of
not.
retail or office, or that's kind of a quasi between the two. Like a great example, I tell people, find what your market needs. Here's a really great one that worked really well is near a hospital that specializes in, say, orthopedic surgery, heart
Hmm.
surgery, things like that. If there's a space, if there's a demand you could possibly put in, you want to own office space there. You want to bring the orthopedic surgeons from that hospital, make their office space across the street so it's easy for them, give them a good discount on the rent.
Yeah.
So they want to do it, especially your top performing orthopedic hospital, because a hospital might have like, or your top performing orthopedic surgeons, a hospital might have 10 orthopedic surgeons, but there's usually one or two that are just your top performers that really keep the place busy. Those are the ones you want. You put them in your office space across the street at a discount rent. Suddenly, you can put in at top dollar rent all of the businesses that are synergistic,
Yes.
meaning if I'm an orthopedic surgeon, who's going to want to be next door to me? Oh, well, what about physical therapists?
Yes.
What about companies that provide prosthetics and splints and all those kind of devices that they're likely to need? What about pharmacies? Yeah, they often do want to be right next door to
Yes,
the
they do.
orthopedic surgeon. I mean, think about who wants to be next to these people. Like, you remember the old movie? I think it was called Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will
Yeah,
come.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, create a reason why they want to come.
Yep.
Put companies together and throw in the middle somebody that will attract the rest of who you're trying to attract. That's an easy example. It is not the only one. There's a lot of situations like that where you want to bring in people who want to be around that. So, for example, another one we did was an office building where we put in uh, it was actually like a plastic surgeon, a really good
Hmm.
plastic surgeon, which sounds crazy, but then surrounding everybody else wanted to be in. You had a dentist who specializes in cosmetic dentistry,
Oh, yeah.
and you have a company that specializes in like designer clothing.
Oh, yeah.
And you have, do you see what I'm saying?
No, no, no. I do.
Like people are going to like, oh, wow, well, next door we have this. Let's go check out that. Companies that are going to benefit from being next door to each other, put them all together and
No.
think that through. Be intentional when you're designing retail space. Office space often will work really well that way too, because like the doctor's offices, that's all considered office space. But there's a lot of crossover between retail and office. Like, okay, if you have a dentist office here and you have a designer clothing and handbag here, is this office space or is it retail? Does it matter? Not really. It's making money. I don't care what it's
But
called.
you know what? That's so true because I had a hip replacement 2 years ago. And so it's at the hospital where I had the surgery. And then next to it's a building. And on the fifth floor is they're Western Orthopedics. So in Colorado, they're like the top place where like all the football teams, everybody goes there.
Mhm.
So on the floor, so my doctor's office is in the building next door, like you said. Well, right next to that is the physical therapy room. And then one floor down is the pharmacy and all of it. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. You can just go there and I can see the doctor. I can get my x-rays and get my checkup. I can do my physical therapy and fill my prescriptions right there. And I thought, this is,
Mhm.
so then I'm like, so then I asked the doctor, I'm like, hey, listen, we own commercials and that. So tell me the deal. He goes, well, he goes, we have like 15 orthopedics. So he goes, I do hips. And this one other one does shoulders and elbows and knees, da 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 da. So we all got this building and we're all in the building. And everything that you need for each and everything is like all right there. And I thought, man, this is really a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
And it's a 5-story building and got its own parking garage. They just built a new parking garage. I think, oh, that's a really great idea. So the guy Brian White, that who did my hip, who actually owns the whole thing, he goes, oh no, I just got all these different hip replacement and arm, shoulder, whatever. I put them all here. They all work here. We all have a space at the hospital. And I put everything that everybody needs in this building. And I'm telling you, and you walk on every floor and there's something for like every single thing. I was like,
Yeah.
this is a great idea. And I thought, you know what? We should do that.
Synergize, bring people, be the place everyone wants to come to, because that's how you make money in office, retail, warehouse space is, well, actually, probably not warehouse, that's separate. An office and retail space, be the place everyone wants to come to, create an environment where people want to come.
Yes.
And that's where you will get top dollar in rent, and that's where it will stay if you be
Yes.
the place they want to come. So be creative as you need to be. I mean, I've seen as creative as like there's a swing dancing company here, and next door you have like a place that sells cowboy boots and cowboy hats and all that
Yes.
kind of fun attire. And next to it is like a Mexican restaurant that's got a mix between Tex-Mex. I mean, you be as creative as you need to be, depending on what your market will bear.
Yeah.
That exact model that I just talked about may or may not be super popular in downtown LA, but in Texas, it's going to go really well.
Oh,
So know your
absolutely.
market and know what you're looking at, whether or not find what's missing and fill the gap.
Yeah. One thing I've learned with our little downtown area, because it's only 3 blocks wide and 3 blocks deep. So this is like the downtown. So we had a guy that owned a mattress company because I want to rent one of your spaces. I said, listen, we're trying to help rejuvenate the downtown, and rejuvenating the downtown does not require a mattress company. It needs to be a bar, a restaurant, a barbecue, a place to eat, or an antique mall, a place to shop. And I'm like, so Bill and I are like, well, we can't just rent every space to whoever wants it. We have to intentionally do things that'll bring people to the downtown. So we've turned
Mhm.
down, I mean, we had a chiropractor that wanted to rent a space. I was like, no, because at night when people are down here for the music and the food and the dining, my space isn't going to draw nobody into it. So that doesn't help grow things. And so we rejected a vacuum cleaner company, a mattress company, like a sewing. It's like, seriously, people today will just throw something away and buy something new. They don't fix stuff, for and that. So we had to be intentional about all the spaces that we have, who goes in there, because the ones in the main downtown need to attract more people to the downtown to make our buildings have more value as well as everybody else's buildings. So we've said no to a lot of people, and then now we got like a hot dog shop, and we have a Mexican restaurant, and we have a barbecue place coming in. I'm like, yeah, those are things that help my little, slice of pie right there. But yeah, because people are just like, oh, I just got to rent the space to whoever. But you have to be more intentional. If you really want to fill everything up, it's got to definitely be more intentional. And it's hard to say no when people offer you a lot of money. So, oh, I could use the money, and they'll sign like a 5-year lease. And you're like, nah, we don't need mattresses in the downtown. Like, we just don't.
Right. And sometimes the exception to that, which in your case, it doesn't sound like this would be the case, but some of the exceptions to that might be when you're looking at your property and identifying what's your parking ratio per
Yes,
building.
yes,
If you don't have enough parking and there's no way to improve that, the answer to that is find synergistic benefits that don't bring people at the same time. So
yes.
like your chiropractor will have a lot of people during the day and the restaurant will have more people at night. Great. Your parking ratio tends to do a lot better because the chiropractor is going to close up shop around the time that the restaurant becomes busiest.
And I
No, they
also
don't bring
learned
business to each other, but they can share a parking lot and
they
not
can
hit each
share.
other.
I also learned how lazy people are because on the 3 block area, there's parking like, where you pull your
Mhm.
car in like sideways in front of all the buildings.
Yeah, the
The whole
45
three
degree angle.
blocks. And then they went down the street, they tore a building down and made parking. And people don't want to park. This is 3 blocks, we're talking 3 blocks. People don't want to park down here and have to walk the blocks. It's like, dude, it's 3 blocks. Well, if I can't get right in the front, I don't want to go. People will drive around for 20 minutes looking for a spot. It's like right there is a massive parking lot, and they just tore an old post office down to add more parking, and people don't want to walk 2 blocks. It's like, what?
Mhm.
When did America get so lazy? They can't walk 2 blocks to go have a meal. You're going to eat, you should walk that meal off. It's only a block.
It's a mindset.
Oh my
You have
God.
an entrepreneurial mindset. We tend to be the kind of people who are like, I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to do all these things. Just know that not all of Americans have the same mindset.
I have watched people because we have a little antique mall. I have been sitting in there and seen a car drive by, and I've watched them loop like 3 times. It's like, okay, literally right there is a parking lot. And they're like, oh, I don't want to walk. It's like, it's not like you're walking a mile,
Then
it's a
get an
couple
Uber.
blocks. It's like, what the hell? And then you go to like New York City, And everywhere you walk, 25 blocks to everything. Everything is walking. You get
Oh
25,000
yeah.
steps in a day. Clinton, Iowa, people don't want to walk 2 blocks for anything. What is wrong with people?
Different mindset, different town. So again, you need to know the dynamic of your location of where you're going.
Yeah.
That's important to know when you're allocating who's going in the space because I don't really have that much parking. And if I don't have enough parking and people aren't going to walk 2, 3 blocks, what's my solution? How do I solve this problem? Yeah, it's real. Yeah, so that's kind of commercial in a nutshell. I mean, we obviously don't have time to go through how to compute an IRR, which is an internal rate of return, how to compute an equity multiplier, how to compute cash on cash return, but those are all really important things to compute when you're doing commercial real estate. But to a large extent, I think it's more than just having like a YouTube class or something of that nature.
Oh, it
You
is.
kind of need to shadow somebody who does it,
Yes.
who
So
does it successfully. Not
all
everybody
those
does it
things that you just
successfully.
talked. So people that want to learn that from you, where specifically do they need to go to learn that?
Go to our website, Real Estate to Freedom. We have information on there. We have a Facebook group called Real Estate to Freedom. You can jump in there, send a message. Nate and I, my husband Nate, or I will respond to you ourselves, and we'll set you up with the information you need, depending on what type of asset class you want to learn and how you want to get into that.
I tell people all the time, I am a big believer because I learned everything by the seat of my pants. Back
Mhm.
in, I mean, this is like 1990 when I started. There was no Google, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, like nothing existed. There were no seminars coming through town. There weren't people to coach you and mentor you. So I really learned a seat of my pants and Home Depot. Like that, I learned everything from my pants to Home Depot. That was my whole thing. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, you can learn everything through mentors or mistakes, and mentors are so much cheaper.
Oh, so
Like
much
if
cheaper.
Bill and I knew what you know about buildings, it would have probably saved me $300,000 from just learning about elevators and boilers and roofs and like these sticky tar roofs versus this roof or that roof. It's like we didn't know all that stuff. We learned, but it's like I don't want people to learn that way because most people don't have the money or they don't have the risk factor.
Correct. A lot of people will come across a hurdle and it seems so overwhelming that they'll just decide real estate's too hard and run away.
They
And in
run.
reality, the answer to overcome that hurdle is very rarely as difficult as people think it is.
So
You just have to know where to
realestatetofreedom.com.
turn. Yeah, realestatetoFreedom.com. That's our
Okay,
website.
so everyone, so for everyone that asked me from today forward, it's like I want to buy commercial. I'm going to tell them to go to you, and they need to pay for mentoring. I'm sure that you guys offer that, but people need to pay for that because you're learning from someone that already did it. They worked out all the kinks. They know the mistakes because you're going to make money faster if you don't make any mistakes. That's what I tell people that mentor with me. It's like, listen, you're brand new. You've never bought a rental, so let me teach you how to wholesale or do a short sale or do a rental or do a storage unit
Mhm.
or whatever so you don't make any mistakes because most people I don't think have like the oomph to like make it through the mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
They tap
I mean,
out.
how many people do you know a $60,000 boiler would have just bankrupted them?
I was like, what? And I've never been in all these old buildings, and I was like, what the hell's a boiler? And what? And then we went and looked, and I had never even been to the basement. I see this giant thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so. It's like so like steampunk looking. This giant thing. I'm like, it costs how much to fix? No, we can't fix this, and it's too old. It costs this much. And I'm like, oh my God, what? I wish someone would have told me that.
Those old boilers, they look like you walked back into the like Back to the Future. Like,
They do. Back to the
what
Future was
is
my first
this?
thought. I was like, Marty was my first thought. Bill and I were laughing. And then after the guy came, I was like, oh, man, this is not funny.
I mean, it's funny after the fact. It's not so funny
After.
at the time.
But it was so cold that year. So we had to go to Iowa in the freezing cold. And I was like, oh my gosh, and get all this stuff fixed. And I did. We looked at it, we were just like, Marty, because it reminded me of Back to the Future where Doc like rolls up on the train.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, that's exactly what these basements look like. That's just so funny. So many things
The
like
cool
that.
thing with the boiler, though, is they often last a really long time. For
Yeah,
being
they
such
last
old
like 50
technology, they
years.
hold
I
up
mean,
pretty well.
they last long. I mean, they do last long, but good Lord. It's like
Yeah, they're expensive.
my learning curve was hard. And I tell people all the time, like, listen, we can teach you everything, but not really commercial. And you need to really learn it from somebody else. You need to pay the money for the mentoring because if not, you make one mistake. Like you said, that would have put a lot of people, they would have just walked away from the whole building. And that same building has the elevator. So that was like two things in one building. I was just
Yep.
like, oh, we should have talked to somebody.
It's worth paying. See, on a single family home, I don't recommend this, but sometimes people buy a home without getting an inspection. They're like, I know enough, I'm okay. That's up to you. I don't recommend it, but I know people who do it. I always tell them that's dumb. It's like $300. Like, cut back some
Get
Starbucks
the
if you need
inspection.
to.
Yeah, exactly.
And put it to where it's at so you know what you're getting into. On a commercial space, the inspection is significantly more expensive, but that is why they go through the boiler, they go through the elevator, they look at all the how often has the elevator been inspected? Is it meeting all the certification? With the building, what are your major issues? And
Yeah.
it's not at all uncommon for that inspection to come back and say, okay, the purchase price of the building is $5.2 million, but you have $1 million worth of repairs coming up in the next 5 years. So
Yeah.
that gives you a negotiation tool. Yeah, I paid 5-10 grand for the inspection, but I have $1 million I can negotiate with the seller. I
Yes.
don't understand why sometimes people are like, well, I didn't want to pay for the inspection. Like, well, you shouldn't be
No,
in
no, no,
commercial.
no. Pay for the inspections. It's like that there's a book that's called like Eat the Cookies, Buy the Shoes. Pay for the inspection. It is worth
Yes,
paying for the inspection.
it's worth
Hey,
it.
so I want to jump off and ask you some fun personal questions.
Go for it.
What's your favorite band of all time?
Hmm. You know, the hard thing with that is I don't listen to music as much as I probably should. I have 8 children. What plays in our house is whatever our teenagers pick because it changes their mood enough that they're like not moody to be around. So on any given day, our 12-year-old daughter generally has Benson Boone playing consistently in the house. Um, but when I pick music of my own,
Yes.
I almost always, I don't pick it by band, I pick it by genre because I like the variety.
Uh-huh.
But I tend to listen to a lot of Christian rock music because I love to run. I've done, I think I'm up to 34 half marathons now. I've done one full marathon. I probably want to do another one too, but full marathons take a lot of time to train for. And
It
when you've
takes a
got
lot.
8 kids, it's a pretty big commitment.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah, I love like
I,
Christian
I,
rock music.
I love I discovered two new people from the Charlie Kirk thing.
Yeah.
Um, I can't think of him. Brandon somebody. Uh,
Brandon Lake, probably.
oh, I didn't know who he was. I'm like, I'm so in love with him. And there's another
Oh,
one,
he's got great stuff.
the short
Uh-huh.
black haired guy. I can't think of his name either. I started following the two of them. I'm like, I listen to them every day now. It's like, oh, they're so great. So I loved that. What's your favorite food?
Yeah.
What
What's
do you
my
like?
favorite what?
What's your favorite food?
As a mother of 8, anything I didn't have to cook or clean up after. That's my favorite food.
I've had my four grandkids for like 12 days and cooked every meal because by the time they get home from school it's 4:30, then they have to go to bed at 7. And I'm like, I have never cooked so much food I feel like in my whole life. Like every day, the whole lunches, it's like there's so
Hmm.
much food. And because we live in the mountains, you can't just like run someplace. There's no place to run except like a full-blown sit-down restaurant. I was like, good Lord. I told Bill, I said, can you just like bring home like some pizzas or something that I don't have to cook. It's so much cooking.
Yes.
What's your favorite time of day? Where are you happy?
Oh, first thing in the morning.
Morning. Yeah.
That's when I love to go running. That's my me time. My husband and I will go to the gym. We do a lot of like stationary biking, lifting weights, or we'll go running together. He just ran his first half marathon with me. I think it was in June. And ironically enough, his first half marathon was the fastest half marathon I've ever run in my whole life.
Wow.
So I hit my fastest time ever at the age of 42
No, good for
because
you.
I was kicking butt to try to keep up with him.
Because you want to keep it, you want to
And he's
win.
never been a runner, so I was really, really impressed. I was very proud of him.
No, I know. I'm not really a runner either. And my daughters, two of them, they do marathons all the time, half marathons and marathons, like all the time, all over the country. They went to Japan and ran a Disney marathon, and they just did one for breast cancer, like in California. They take these sister trips and run these marathons. I was like, oh, good for you
That
guys.
sounds fun.
I'm like, yeah, no, mom doesn't want to run. I think at 66, my niece was like, yeah, no, let's just go for a hike. Let's just be a little bit late. Okay, last thing. So, first
Uh-huh.
of all, I want to thank you for your time because you've been so helpful and really insightful. And I have taken this notes on 2 pages of things. I may actually get into your coaching for my own self because I've still got a lot of buildings that need fixing. I like everyone to leave to give us a word of wisdom, a word, yeah, a word of wisdom, just one single word, just a word, one word.
Integrity.
Ooh. Okay, now, so integrity. So everyone that follows me knows that we always have my guests give us the word of the week. And I tell everyone to write it on a sticky note and put it on your bathroom. You're brushing your teeth and doing your hair. Say the word over and over: integrity, 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 integrity. So everyone knows they have a word of the week. So we want to know what integrity means to you.
Integrity has a lot of different aspects of it, but I think to a large extent, be who you say you are.
Oh,
Don't be fake. Be who you say you are, and be honest in all things. Anyone who tells you they've never made a mistake in real estate, they're lying to you, or they've never invested in real estate. So don't take their advice anyway.
exactly. I
But
feel
own
integrity.
up to it.
Integrity is one of my words. I tell my grandkids all the time because they're all 10 and below. And they'll like sneak candy or and I say, hey,
Mhm.
listen, you have to have integrity. I said, because you know who's watching you? When Mimi's not watching you, God. So when
Right.
you sneak these things, that's learning to be sneaky. And as you grow up, that's not going to be a good thing for you. So we I my son and my daughter-in-law at night when the kids are here at our house, we watch Cops. Like there's a
Uh-huh.
channel where it just runs live. It's like live cops. And so my husband and I like, see those people getting arrested? You know why? That's because they didn't have integrity and they lied and they were sneaky and they were drinking and you were that, they're in jail. So they're just like, so the kids like, we don't want to go to jail. So they'll just tell whatever they did because they watched that show.
Good.
And my son's like, don't let him watch that. I'm like, listen, it's live. It's not anything horrible. They're usually just like pulling over drunk people. And I'm like, listen, that's what happens, kids. You lie, you sneak, you steal. You're gonna be in jail. You're gonna be on Cops, live on Cops. And they're like, we don't want to be on Cops.
No, please don't.
So yesterday, my grandson like got into my granddaughter's thing and like took her candy. I said, "Where's the candy?" He's like, "I don't know." I said, "Benny, do you want to be on Cops?" He's okay. I took it. I was like, "See, there you go." I was like,
Thank
"Oh."
you.
So 6 years old, he's afraid to be on Cops. I
Hey,
was like,
whatever gets them there.
"Oh."
In our
I told
household, we have a
them
rule. You'll get in trouble if you make a mistake, but you'll get in 10 times more trouble if you lie about it.
that's what we
Just
told
own up
him.
to your mistakes and we'll work with you and help you fix it. I mean, that's how God works. We make mistakes, He helps us fix them, and we work on being better.
I
But
tell
I
them
mean,
the
I'm not going
same
to take away the
thing.
consequences, but I will lessen them if you are honest about it. If you lie about it, tenfold, they're
I tell them
worse.
the same thing. I said, just tell the truth. If you tell the truth,
Mhm.
I'm not going to get, I mean, I'm not going to get mad. Tell the truth and we'll figure it out. But if you lie to me, and then I say, tell me two things you know about Mimi. And they're like, Mimi. So I taught them, they go, Mimi don't play. So they go, Mimi don't play, and we better tell the truth. I was like, that's all you need to know for the rest of your life. I don't
You're
play
my
and
kind of
tell
a
me the
person.
truth. All right. Well, I have loved having you on today, Becky. I think we went a little bit long, but you know what? You're so fun to talk to. I want to,
Thank
next time
you.
I come to Utah, I want to like, we'll have lunch and meet
I
you.
love that.
That would be so great. So, all right, everyone, thank you for joining. I'm going to ask you a favor. If you learned anything, if you had fun today, go to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. It's on every single place that podcasts are. We're in like the top 20 on Spotify, almost at 2 million downloads now. So we're really growing and doing good.
Woo!
And woo, so leave a 5-star review, write something fun, and doing all that, I will read out your comment and your name in an episode. So do that. And for me, and remember to go to dwanderful.com for all of your real estate needs and for all your commercial needs. You have to go to Becky because she is the queen. You're the queen.
Thank you,
You're the
Dwan. I
queen.
appreciate it.
All right, everybody, we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And remember that the truth is in the red letters. All right, everybody. Ciao. Becky, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks,
Next
Dwan.
week. I am so glad that you stuck around. I almost forgot to tell you. In addition to having this amazing educational podcast, I'm now able to work with you one-on-one. Yes, one-on-one, you and me working together, and I have a 3-deal guarantee. 3-deal guarantee that you'll close 3 deals. So you have nothing to lose. You have everything to gain. Take the quiz. Go to dwanderful.com. Take the real estate investing quiz. See you on the other side.